Hi, my name is Kersten Kimura. Welcome to the Balanced Vibes podcast. If you're ready to quit the black and white approach to health and fitness, this is the podcast for you. There's no room for extremes and all or nothing thinking. We are here to talk about real health, sustainable diet and fitness, positive psychology, and spiritual growth, helping you become your own biggest superfan. Welcome to the show. Hello everyone, this is Kirsten here. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Balanced Vibes podcast. I'm very grateful that you're here because I know that there could be 1,000 other things that you could be doing right now, but you choose to be here. So thank you so much for that. Today we're talking about mindset. The first two episodes were about balanced fitness and balanced foods. And now today we are talking about mindset. I feel like a lot of times we are so hyper focused on our food and fitness because these are things that affect our physical body, the way we look. And we are very focused on that. We're always thinking, okay, how is this workout going to change my body? Or is this going to change my body? Or how is this food that I'm about to eat now going to change my body? Is it a bad food? I should not be having it. Or is it a good food? Is it an allowed food or okay food? How is that going to change my body? We are thinking a lot about our physical bodies to the point where we often neglect our mindset and the mental side of things. However, this is really important. And all of my clients, all of my one-on-one training, coaching clients are always doing some kind of mindset work too, because let me tell you, healing our bodies physically is not the hard part. Everybody knows that when they're overtrained, then all they have to do is just rest more and work out less. Everybody knows that if they've been under eating, they just have to eat more and not fast, for example. Or if you have the opposite goal, you want to maintain or gain muscle or get leaner or lose weight, then you just know, okay, there's certain things I have to do for that. However, the hard part is that we are actually not doing it. So it's not the lack of knowledge, and it's not that it's physically hard to make those changes. What is the hard part is that our mindset is not there. We're not thinking about things the right way. So that's why I have all my coaching clients write, either do expressive writing or do journaling or do meditation, either silent or guided meditation. There's so many ways to explore your own mindset and make it work for you, not against you. There's a cool thing about a brain that is called neuroplasticity, and that means that our brains are able to change. So if you're saying that, I know that I should change my mindset and all the other people around me can do it and they were able to recover and good for them, but I can't do it because I always go back to those old things. Well, all this is a lie because you actually can change your brain. Your brain has this ability. It's called neuroplasticity. It can really change, and all we have to do is start putting different thoughts into our heads. It's kind of like putting different foods into your body to create the change. So same thing with our thoughts as well. Our mindset matters so much. It helps us to see the world differently. It helps us to create better thoughts. And once our thoughts are better, also our responses are better, our actions are better, and we are able to create that better life. So that's why focusing on mindset is very important. It wasn't actually until about 2015 when I started learning about these things and started reading more positive psychology books and got more interested in that topic. But before that, I lived many years in this very victim mindset, which, sometimes it comes back. I am not perfect at all. It actually comes back quite a bit, but now at least I know what to do about it. So it wasn't until 2015 when I started learning about these things a little bit more. But before that, so let's say between years maybe 2012 to maybe say 2011 to 2013, I was actually really depressed. I was pretty depressed. And in 2013, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. And I was on medication for a little while, I think about 6 to 8 months. I also got therapy at the same time, which was okay, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. Looking back, I know that. But back then, my therapist, he was a nice older gentleman. However, we were not really clicking. I was going through a lot of issues with my eating, and I had this huge fear of gaining weight. And he was like, but you're not fat. And it's so easy to say something like that to somebody if you don't know what it actually means. If you are not that person who is really obsessed with food and exercise and whose biggest fear is gaining weight. So just telling them that you're not fat is actually not what's going to do the trick. But I'm proud for myself for reaching out for help, because I know that, before I reached out for help, there was a moment where I was just lying down in my room, like on the floor, and just like crying. And I think I had just binged on like half a jar of peanut butter, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I just can't take it anymore. I had been in this relationship for a long time that wasn't working for me. And also, I was feeling that I had not made the best choices for my career. And on top of that, I had this binge eating disorder. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And one moment I was just like, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. I have to get some help. So if you feel like you need help too, just please go and ask for it, because it's going to be very, very hard to break this cycle if you are really dealing with actual depression. So in 2013, I was diagnosed with depression. I was on medication for a little while. And then about a couple of years later, I started reading more positive psychology, just like I mentioned, and slowly thinking differently. And even now, although things are so much more better, I still tend to get depressed. And honestly, I've always been a little bit of a person who has this tendency to fall into those periods, times of sadness and depression. And I've never really truly figured out what that is and why that is. But there's something going on. However, now I have more tools to deal with these hard moments. And today I want to share with you 5 tips and tools that I have for you. They are not scientific tools. These are just some of the things that I have found useful for me, that are really, really helpful to dig into what is going on with you, what is going on, and why am I feeling really low. And these tips are useful for somebody who's dealing with depression or anxiety, or just generally don't know what the heck am I doing here. If you have these thoughts ever, then I think you're going to find these useful. So the first one is especially for somebody who is feeling really, really depressed and really, really low. And I would recommend 2 things to look at the big rocks in your life. And these 2 things are your relationships and your job or your work or your school. Why these things are so important? Because they take up a lot of time of our lives, right? So let's first talk about relationships. How are they going? Are you happy in your relationships? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel they bring you joy? Do you feel your relationships, they're mutual, they're equal? I'm sharing this because I was in a relationship for 4 years that was not right for me, but I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't have the courage to change anything. I didn't have the courage to be alone for a little while. I was just thinking that if somebody who I liked also likes me, that's awesome. And I like this person because he was a good person, but there was no like really strong emotional, mental connection. And he was a great person, really good person, but we're just not clicking. And that went on for like years and years. And I just felt emptier and emptier and emptier in this relationship, but I had no strength and power to do anything about it. And as a result, if you stay in a situation like that for a couple of years, then it really starts to take a toll on you. And like I said, it's not that the other person is bad or wrong, but you just got to be honest. Is this right place for me? Is this the right time for me? And for me, it wasn't. And the other thing I want to talk about is the work. Back then, it was around the same time, I was I was building my academic career, I guess you could say. And I was a PhD student. I was a visiting scholar. And I had this feeling for a while that maybe this isn't the right thing for me, but at the same time, I was like, I don't also know what else to do. And I've also, I've already started on this path. I have to keep going. But you know what? It's not true. Like I told you also in the very first episode, when I moved to California and I started meeting all these people who were doing totally different things and not what they went to school for, they were doing different things and they were doing great, right? They actually followed their passion. So for me, doing this job that I once liked but never truly felt super passionate about, and now didn't feel any passion for it anymore, just doing this for a long time was a really, really wrong thing to do, because I kept doing it for years. And if you do something that you don't like for years and years and years, I mean, of course, how it's going to end up. it's not going to go get any better. Although you may be thinking, okay, maybe this is going to get better, maybe it's going to turn out just fine. It usually won't. So check in with yourself, see if the two big rocks, your relationships and your work, are you happy with them? Are you satisfied? Because if you're not, know that they take up a big part of your life, a lot of time. If you're not happy with those things, they are going to create you more and more anxiety and more depression. The next thing I want to talk about is the concept of true self and acquired self. And I learned this from a book called Stress Cure Now by Sarfraz Zaidi. I hope I'm pronouncing it somewhat correctly. Basically, what the author says is that there are almost like two people inside of us. One of them is the true self, and the other one is the acquired self. And I found this idea of separation between true self and acquired self really helpful, because it helps me to see that I think I have to be a certain way, look a certain way, do certain things, and so on. The true self is the person who you were when you were born. And when you think about a little baby, what does a little baby need? A little baby needs sleep, it needs food, and then that's basically it. It's just chilling, right? Relaxing, sleeping, eating, and relaxing, right? That's all she has. And then the author says that this is what we all have inside of us, and this is actually a true guide. The life is so pure and so simple when you are in your true self. Now, the other side of us is the acquired self. That is kind of like a result of all the social conditioning, all the expectations, all the perfectionism, all the comparison, all the disappointment. We experience these things as we go through the first and the second year of our lives and the rest of our lives. We build up this new stuff inside of us all the time, and then we create this acquired self. And these two selves are very different. The true self is the pure, the clean version of you who's really happy and needs very little. And then there's this acquired self who somebody says a comment, somebody looks quote unquote better than them every time. We're not perfect. This kind of feeds the acquired self. And if you have ever been in an eating disorder recovery, you know that the similar separation is done there too. There is this, the healthy self and then the eating disorder self. Or this is actually very similar distinction here, because you have to know which one is which, and you have to realize when you are getting impacted too much by that acquired self, which happens about 99% of our time. So next time when you're feeling like I'm not perfect enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm disappointed in myself, remind yourself that this is the acquired self that's talking right now. This is the one who's been socially conditioned. This is the one who's never happy. But why don't I go back to my true self, that little baby who is happy and healthy and needs some sleep and food? Of course, things are not as simple, like so black and white in real life. But for the most part, in so many cases, we can make this very important distinction, and we start seeing things much more clearly. The third tip I have for you, if you are dealing with anxiety or depression, whatever the reason is to remember that in order to heal, we have to feel. And I see a lot of this happening in my clients too, where, of course, I'm working with a lot of perfectionists, and they always say that I'm not going to let that, I don't feel this way. It's okay. I can get through this. I can power through this. I'm going to deny my feelings. And this is the root cause of everything. This is the root cause of why you're feeling so down, why you're having all this anxiety, because you are not feeling these things and you're suppressing these things. And very interestingly, this kind of suppression can even cause physical pain. If you want to learn more about it, there's a great book called The Mind-Body Prescription, where they talk about how suppressed emotions, suppressed feelings can actually even cause you physical pain. Not to mention all the emotional pain that we're going through when we are suppressing our feelings. And so how do you do it? First, understand that there's nothing shameful in letting yourself feel the feelings. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you want to cry. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you want to punch something. I mean, don't punch other people, but punch something else. Punch a pillow and cry. Let your feelings out. If you're feeling something really strongly, instead of pushing it back down, because it's not going to be helpful. And I think we've all had this experience where after a really good cry, we just feel so much lighter, right? And we cry because we are feeling hurt emotionally. And when we cry, we let it out, we actually start feeling lighter. I don't know about you, but I've had that experience. And I would like you to do that more often. So feel what you're feeling and try to even intensify this. So let's say that you're comparing yourself to somebody and you get this feeling like, oh my God, I'm not as good as she is. First, understand that this is the acquired self that's talking to you. And secondly, start feeling this a little bit more. Turn it up a little bit. Just try to really feel what you are feeling. It may start even physically hurting. And then maybe let it out with a little cry, or a little punching, or a little dancing, a little jumping around, whatever it is, but just let it out. Bottling this feeling up is never a good idea because then you're going to have even more of it. My next step for you would be to stop pity partying. And you may think, okay, that doesn't kind of feel like what you said in the last one, but these two things are not counterproductive. They actually can work together very, very well. So after you feel what you're feeling and letting it out, and then, have your moment and feel all the hard feelings, but then at one point stop the pity party. I know it's so easy to go like, oh, I'm so sad. I can never get there. I will never heal. I will never get better. Blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like comforting. It feels so good, right? Let's just sit here and feel so bad about ourselves. But here's the deal, nobody can fix this. Nobody else can fix this. Only you can fix this. So think, what is the thing after I have felt my feelings and let them out and I've had my little pity party? What is the thing now that I can do to start feeling better? And understand that this is not the same thing as bottling up your emotions. You have to let those emotions out first, then pity party a little bit, and then get over it and do the next thing that makes you feel good. What is that thing? Maybe it is going outside. Sometimes it may feel like I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to leave my house. I'm just going to stay here. Feel so good, so comfortable. No, you have to get out. You have to meet people. You have to talk to people. You got to do the things that bring you your life back. For me, for example, I do some work. I do something that I know can be helpful for somebody. Maybe I record another podcast episode. Maybe I put something up on Instagram. Maybe I write a long blog post. Something that gives me the sensation of, okay, I can do it. I'm good, I'm moving on. Whatever it is for you, I want you to do that. So that's what I mean when I say that stop the pity party and do something that makes you feel great. And my last tip for you today is stop blaming and complaining and stop being in the victim mindset. Blaming is so easy to do because it's easy to push it on others, right? I was talking to somebody some time ago who said that it's the dieting culture who has made me feel really bad about myself and made me make bad decisions. Hey, this was not the dieting culture who did this. It's actually ourselves, right? The dieting culture is probably not going to go anywhere, but it doesn't help to blame them for it. What we have to do is we have to take personal responsibility. Okay, yeah, it does suck that it's there. I agree. It does suck. It has a potential of putting a lot of thoughts into our heads if we let that happen. So we got to stop blaming others, other people, or the dieting culture, or our mom, or I don't know who else. And we have to start taking personal responsibility if there's something in our lives that we don't like. Also, we have to stop complaining. And it's the same thing, oh, there's like the coronavirus out there. It's so bad and it's so hard. Of course, it is hard and it is bad, but also notice when you're talking about it too much, when the complaining becomes a non-stop thing, because it's going to take away all your power. And I would like you to look up a book. It's called A Complaint-Free World. And, if you don't want to read the whole book, here's basically the idea. You're going to put a bracelet on your wrist, and every time you complain, you're going to switch it to your opposite wrist and see how it goes. The end goal is to go 21 days without complaining. But let me tell you, when I first tried it, I had to switch my bracelet 3 hours since I started this project. So, and I ended up complaining like 7-8 times a day, and I was like, I'm not complaining, but I was complaining. And so this can be very, very eye-opening. Complaining is just something that creates this feeling of disempowerment. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to be over here being a victim of my circumstances, but this is not moving you forward. And I also mentioned the victim mindset. So it's basically the same thing. Instead of saying, oh, they're so bad, or they didn't treat me well, or poor me, think what you can do. When we're talking about eating disorder again, it's like, oh, the eating disorder has all this power over me. Maybe you can utilize that healthy self and really speak up for yourself and be like, okay, I can do it. It's in my power. I can change my thoughts and my behaviors. All right, this is it for you today. I hope you found this useful. And remember, when I say things that sound like tough love, yeah, they may be tough love, but they come from my heart. They come because I love you and I like you and I wish the best for you. And I really want you to start thinking differently, start challenging your own ways of thinking, because you can do so much better than you're doing right now if you're feeling depressed and anxious. All right, thank you so much for being here. Thanks again for listening, and I will catch you again next week. Thanks so much for listening to the Balanced Vibes podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe and also leave a 5-star review on iTunes. For more about me, check out my website urbanjane.co. Yes, that's CO and not com. And connect with me on Instagram, where my username is Kirsten Kimura. That's KERSTENKIMURA. Until next time.